on this snowy day. So here this afternoon we have Avery Vodar, who is a very popular face here at Lunchbox because of her very successful brand Buttons on Beaver. She is starting in 2022. She started selling game day pins, which I'm sure all of you guys have seen around town and downtown as she sells them. And she is a supply chain major here at Penn State. And she is gaining exceptional leadership skills and being the testament of her entrepreneurial spirit by running this venture. So we're so happy that she could join us today. And she will also be at our student marketplace on Friday, where you can buy some of these buttons that she will be talking about the process of making here. So everyone, please give a warm welcome to Avery.
Hi everyone, thank you for being here today. I'm Avery Vodar, I'm the founder of Buttons on Beaver, and basically today I'm just gonna tell you the story of how I became the button girl and started Buttons on Beaver, as Brittany said, in 2022. So just to recap, I'm a senior majoring in supply chain management with a minor in innovation entrepreneurship. I'm from the Chicago suburbs. I love to dress up, and starting up Buttons on Beaver has been one of the coolest things I've done. So with being from Chicago, I get a lot of questions all the time of how did I end up at Penn State? And basically, I knew going away to college that I wanted a big school, a football school, and a lot of school spirit. So naturally, I applied all South. But my parents asked me to apply to one Midwest school, and I said no. So then they said, how about one Big Ten school? That's how I ended up looking at Penn State and absolutely fell in love with the school. But something that I wanted at a Southern school was their game days. And if you've seen Southern game days, the girls dress a lot like this. So it's basically a fashion show, heels, dresses, and not a lot of the school emblems on their outfits. So kind of similar to what I'm wearing today. But if you look at Big Ten fashion, you see a lot more pants, it's a lot colder, so you're seeing jackets, and then you're also seeing the school logos on a lot of the shirts and outfits that the girls are wearing. But when you look at Penn State fashion, it kind of falls somewhere in the middle for Penn State game day. You're seeing a lot of skirts, still no logos really, boots and rompers, but something's missing. As you can see on the Southern outfits, the girls all have fun buttons representing their school spirit, but the Penn State outfits were lacking that. So I wanted to find buttons for my game day outfits, and I went out in search of buttons something like this. These are just pictures that I found online of buttons for sale for Southern schools, and they're super cute and super creative. And this is what I wanted, but in the theme of Penn State, and was unable to find. Instead, when I went out looking, I found these. There's nothing wrong with these buttons, but they just were not what I was looking for. So I decided that I was going to make my own. And I was just doing it for my friends and my roommates originally. And when I told them my idea, they told me I would not do it. So naturally, then I had to. And I ordered a button machine off of Amazon and started designing buttons. So after a small test release with just my friends and roommates, I kind of could see that I was doing something that people were going to be interested in, and I launched my Instagram. So this is Buttons on Beaver's first post, and also my first set of buttons that I made. As you can see, the post only has 61 likes, and those are pretty much all from friends and family, which I was completely fine with. That was all I was really trying to do in the beginning. And I just started making them and getting them out there to anyone that would want them. And the way I got my first couple buyers was I actually went to sorority Instagrams, and I just started following all the girls that were in those sororities to see if they would follow me back and be interested in what I was selling, because they were pretty much my initial target customer. So after doing this for the 2022 football season, I sold about 300 buttons. And my process was very tedious, and when you click the order form in my bio, you got something that looked kind of like this, exactly like this actually, and it shows my price, pickup times, how you would know what it was me, where to Venmo, and just extremely detailed instructions because I was operating so locally. And that was good for the time being, and I also did that the same way this past season, where I grew to sell about 1,000 buttons for the 2023 football season. And that is just from my order form alone. That was not including pop-up shops. And then the second market that I ended up adapting, which was custom orders. I didn't plan to go into custom orders when I started Buttons on Beaver, but it just kind of felt natural and people were asking for it. So while I have done over $10,000 in revenue since starting my business, I have a lot of that coming from my custom orders. So these are just a few examples of the custom orders I've done. I've done sorority name tags, 21st birthdays are probably one of the largest ones, sports teams, as well as getting involved in Thon and other org superlatives and special event buttons. So that being said, that brings me to how did I grow from selling 300 buttons in 2022 to 1,000 plus for 2023. And there were definitely some key moments where my business grew. The first one being this picture that's behind the text here. This was my season drop for 2023. And when I initially posted it to my Instagram, I posted it as a giveaway. So the rules of the giveaway were you had to be following my Instagram, repost the post, and like the post. And when I initially posted it, I had about 400 followers. And in less than 24 hours, I had doubled my following to 800, which was absolutely crazy. I think I had around 200 people enter the giveaway. And the best part of it was I had one of my friend's brothers tell me the first week back at school that this post clogged his feed to the point where he could not go on Instagram without seeing this. So that coming from someone who wasn't even my target customer was really exciting to hear. And that got my name out there a lot. Another thing that grew my business a lot was my feature with the business school. They asked for me to make a video for them for Small Business Saturday. And I'm gonna show that to you briefly just because it's a really good visual of everything I just explained with my process. Oh, maybe.
Vodar, and I'm the founder of Buttons on Beaver. Happy Small Business Saturday, and let me tell you a little bit about what it's like running a small business in college.
Welcome to my office. Everything I do for Buttons on Beaver happens right here in my room. I sit at my desk, design, cut, print, and assemble all the buttons. This is a current order I'm working on. And also on my wall, I keep a collection of every football button that I've ever made. On my desk is where I do all my work from. Down here is where Buttons on Beaver actually lives. I keep everything it takes to make the buttons and as well store them in this little cabinet, which is nice because it keeps my area clean. This is my favorite part about running Buttons on Beaver. On Adobe Illustrator, I design all the buttons I make. This file is for this year's football season. This is the part where I really get to be creative. Now let's design a button for Small Business Saturday. First, I'm just making a quick and easy design and then off to the hub to print. Now I just cut the button out of a piece of paper, which usually has about 12 on one sheet, and then I assemble it with my little button making machine. Running a business in college has been one of the most rewarding experiences I've ever had. I couldn't imagine my life without Buttons on Beaver, and I highly encourage anyone else to try and run their own business if they think they have an idea that's worth pursuing. Happy
Okay, yeah, as you just saw, that gave a more in-depth view of what's actually going on, and I co-posted this with Smeal, my own buttons account, and then also the university. And that got me a lot of traction within faculty and alumni Penn Staters because it was also shared on LinkedIn and Facebook, so that grew my reach a lot. Another thing that was exponential for my growth was the article I did with Daily Collegian. So at the beginning of the football season this past year, Emma, a sophomore writer for the Daily Collegian, contacted me and asked to do a feature on buttons on Beaver. And when I first met with her, she explained to me that about 1 in 25 of their articles go to their Instagram and about 1 in 20 go to print. So she said odds were slim, but she'd let me know when the article was live. And after it was live, I shared it to my Instagrams and sent it to all my friends to go read. And it was getting enough traction that it did end up going on the Instagram. These are 2 screenshots from their post. And that weekend, it went to print as well. So that was really exciting and a really cool keepsake to have for my business. That being said, it also had 973 likes on the Daily Collegian post, which is still to this day one of their most liked posts that they've ever posted. That was huge for growing my business, for getting my name out in the community, because shortly following that, I began doing pop-ups. My first pop-up shop was at Anti-Fragile Brewing, and they actually reached out to me from the Daily Collegian article asking to work with me and host me for a pop-up. Following that, I got close with a group of other entrepreneurs who run thrift businesses. And if anyone's here heard of Underground Collective, she makes really awesome reworked clothes. And all together, we've had 2 really big pop-ups where when we have them, there's lines around the corner waiting for people to get in. And that's been also huge for growing my business because people are coming for the thrift or for Underground Collective and they're seeing my buttons and I'm getting new customers. So we're kind of all supporting each other when it comes to that. Another thing that was huge for my business was partnering with Doggies Pub. So the first week of school this year, I got a DM from Doggies asking if I could do custom birthday buttons for them. And I thought it might be Doggies' anniversary, and that's what was happening. And as someone who's over 21, Doggies is one of my favorite places to go with my friends, so this was so exciting for me to work with them. I met with them the next day, and while they were looking for birthday buttons, those were for their nephew, and they actually were also interested in having me make 100 buttons for every home game for their staff as pretty much a collectible and a thank you to the staff for working game day weekends. And this ended up being a great relationship because not only were Doggies employees wearing my buttons every single weekend pretty much, but they were also promoting me all over their Instagrams and have hosted 2 pop-up shops for me as well. So with all this growth, obviously came some challenges. The first one being licensing. That first post that I showed by Smeal, while it was super awesome of gaining attention from the university, I also woke up a week later with an email in my inbox saying that they were going to take the video down because I was not a licensed Penn State provider. And I thought my life was over. I thought Buttons on Beaver was over. Obviously that did not happen, and things get better. So they worked with me, and basically the university had just shined a spotlight on me for being a student that was changing things, and they didn't want to knock me down for doing that after just highlighting me. So I worked really closely with the licensing department and now have a small business license moving forward and am all set to make Penn State products with their consent. So it's really exciting to have the university supporting me now. The next 2 kind of go hand in hand, tedious and growing demand. So as you saw, my process is extremely hands-on. I'm cutting every circle by hand. I'm pressing each one. I'm packaging them and writing little name slips in the back of the orders. And then I'm gonna go sit at Starbucks for 4 hours a week while people come pick them up. And then for the demand to grow, and have done that over 10,000 times in the past 1.5 to 2 years, is hard to keep up with. So I'm excited to say that moving forward, I will be working with a supplier out of Arizona that's a woman-owned business, and getting connected with them has been a great experience. She actually started the same way I did, making buttons out of her apartment in California 25 years ago. So that will be a great relationship moving forward. And speaking of the future of Buttons on Beaver, the future of my business is changing as well, because I will no longer be running through Google Forms and Venmo. I have a website, buttonsonbeaver.com, for next year that will be where I take all of my orders and handle things that way. So a lot more professional, and this is what I've pretty much been working on in my time in the Fast Track program here at Launchbox. So in the past year and a half, 2 years, a lot has happened, but I definitely have a few personal favorite memories that have occurred. So one of the first ones that I want to highlight is from this past whiteout. And I actually have to shout out my mom for this story, because this lovely class of 64 alumni was sitting in front of her and basically was telling her the story that this was his first ever Penn State football game, and it was a bucket list item for him to go to. And he actually had tickets to go in 2020, but we know how that happened. And so the fact that he got to come to the whiteout this year, he stayed the whole game in the rain cheering. And my mom offered him my whiteout pin to commemorate the game and remember it by, and it's got the year on it. So seeing my button used as a commemorative moment for this man was super exciting. And he actually offered to take this picture and told my mom to tell me to share his story. So that was really exciting and gained a lot of traction on my Instagram. Very heartwarming. The next personal favorite of mine is having been involved in Thon with Buttons on Beaver. So my first year I worked closely with my own org and one of my best friend's orgs to get involved in Thon and run a really small fundraiser. But as Buttons on Beaver's traction grew, so did my involvement in Thon. So this past Thon weekend, I had over 650 buttons that I made in the BJC, which was super cool to see walking around, and rewarding to know that people were coming to me to wear my buttons for Thon weekend and that I could help them say what they want to say on a button. And then with that being said, a few of those orders also were ran as fundraisers. So I was able to give back to the orgs to credit under their name over $1,000 towards Thon, which was always exciting. And lastly, the people, you guys. So my favorite part of running Buttons on Beaver is by far when I'm walking around tailgates or Beaver Stadium and I see people wearing my buttons. I just love knowing that I'm making something that people want and seeing how everyone wears them differently, and it wouldn't be possible to get where I've gotten today without everyone else. So thank you all for being here and for repping Buttons on Beaver if you do, and that's all. Any questions? It's not switching.
If you guys could wait to ask your questions until I give the microphone.
Hi, I was just wondering, what do you plan to do in the future, after you graduated with Buttons on Beaver?
Yeah, sure. So I'm graduating in May, so pretty soon, and I will still be designing buttons for next year. I am giving up doing custom orders just because of volume reasons. So next year I will still be making football buttons and any custom order that's over 100 buttons in volume. And then I will be outsourcing those to the supplier in Arizona. They'll be making them, and then I'll be reselling them through my website. So people can order online and then they'll be delivered to them now versus coming to pick them up. And then I'm also able to reach more Penn Staters that way, and I'll be packaging and shipping them myself from my apartment after college.
Question from someone watching online. How long does it take you to design a button?
Designing a button can take anywhere from about 30 minutes to 3 hours, depending on which one. So if it's just a text-based one, like the one that says, I'm glad I don't live in Morgantown, that one doesn't take very long. But the one up top with the Beaver Stadium took me over 3 hours. So it just depends.
So you seem like you're focused a lot on Penn State stuff. Are you thinking about scaling to other universities with other angles down south?
Yeah, so I would want to grow up north just because the South does have buttons, but I think my growth for other schools comes in about a year to 2 years, just because I know there's so many more Penn Staters I still have yet to reach and I can grow to. Operating extremely local has limited me to that, so not being able to ship. But in the future, the plan is to transition Buttons on Beaver to just be Buttons on, and then Buttons on Beaver will be the Penn State drop-down menu on the website or section, and then each university I acquire would be named after a prominent street at their school. And then also that would look like hiring student designers at those schools, because I believe I do so well at Penn State because I'm a Penn Stater. I get the culture, versus I can't go make Maryland buttons and have them have the same effect. Thanks.
Hi, Avery. What was the most sentimental button you ever made and why?
That's a good one. I think if we're just talking football buttons, probably the one on the top here with the stadium, because I think that took me about 4.5 hours to design, and it's like pretty much exactly a replica of Beaver Stadium that I drew. So just like knowing that one wasn't even close to a bestseller for me, which was okay because I know how much time I put into it and I liked the design. So that was probably my favorite one that I've done, most sentimental. I can speak more on like anything if there's just like a general topic that anyone has questions about.
Now that you're moving to outside manufacturers, are you being met with minimum order quantities that you have to meet? And if so, how are you working through that?
Yes and no. So they can fulfill any number I would need them to. It just kind of affects my price then and cost to have them make it. So I'm sticking around 100 for every button, because that'll put it about at the same cost it currently costs me to make them if I order in quantities of 100. But I'm also have the ability to mix and match. So if I needed 25 of 4 different designs, I can still get the 100 unit price for 25 of 4 different designs, depending on how inventory's going.
Have you considered like direct partnerships with the stadiums? I'm sure you have, but what's that look like? Because I have to imagine that it's like where you would plan to take it next, is like working directly with the football stadium, with Penn State. And now that you've got licensing, it seems like they want to work with you. So I would think that would be like a way to exponentially grow this beyond just having to set up a pop-up stand or something like that.
Yeah, I haven't considered that too much yet, just because Buttons on Beaver does stand on its own currently. So I'd be interested to see if getting closer with the university would kind of make it more of a university thing, because the bookstores sell buttons at the end of the day. So I guess they could sell those over mine. But it definitely is a possibility moving forward. I would also be curious to see like if Buttons on Beaver could still exist on its own, or if it just becomes like Penn State buttons.
What would you say to someone that had an idea like you did before you had your business? What would you say to encourage them to go for it kind of like you did?
I would say it's a lot less intimidating than you think. I feel like when I started this, I just knew I had an idea that I wanted to pursue, and I just started, and I kind of worried about things as they came instead of trying to figure it all out at once and like get everything set up in the beginning. I kind of like naturally progress things. So like as things came to me, that's when I was like taking the step that was needed. But I feel like when you look at it and in the perspective of, I'm going to start a business, what all do I need? That's really scary versus like, this is what I want to do. I'm going to start doing it and then taking it from there as it grows.
Another online question. Can you speak more about your licensing experience? What was that process like?
Sure. So I actually responded to the email initially extremely confused on why I was being flagged because I've never put the Penn State logo on anything. So I didn't understand why I was why I was in trouble. But even Penn State in any font is licensed, or We Are Penn State, or The Penn State Whiteout. We Are is the only thing that is not, fun fact. But the licensing department was more than happy to meet with me. They asked me if I wanted to go get coffee or just Zoom, and we talked, and pretty much, you know, what I said, where they were like, we don't want to like hurt your business. We don't want to shut you down. We want to help you. So there's a license called Community Connect license that's specifically for small businesses. And then there's rules that I'm not going to go into that are behind it, but it allows for small businesses to use Penn State, and there's different sports teams and colleges that are registered under Community Connect, so you could apply for anyone, and then you just have to be approved from there. So I was approved for the Penn State one, and then can adjust it as I move forward.
I know that you have been in like a fast track program for Buttons on Beaver. Can you just like speak to, I don't know, what resources or knowledge you may have learned from that kind of helped the growth of your business?
Yeah, so anyone here that's starting a business or considering starting a business, I highly recommend getting involved with the Launch Boxes programs that they have for that. So I'm currently in fast track. I wrap up with that today. And I actually had no idea about it until 2 days before the application was due. And if anyone was here for T-Day Sports earlier with Justin, he was the one that encouraged me to apply 2 days before the deadline. And I did. And I'm so happy that I did because it pushed me a lot to grow my business faster and kind of more professionally than I thought was possible in 10 weeks. And the resources wise, I think the best part for me has been meeting with the advisors and just like the weekly meetings in general, because I mean, I'm an entrepreneurship minor. We go over how to start a business, idea development, all that type of stuff. But the fast track advisors were actually able to put me in contact with people that could help me with that. So learning about shipping and learning about market growth and like just giving me all these ideas that I would have never thought of. So I guess just bouncing it off of people that have been in my shoes with starting a business was the biggest asset for me. And that's what pushed me for finding a supplier, starting my website, figuring out how I'm going to package and ship my items, a few more licenses I need to apply for, just figuring all that out to like set me up for the next steps of my business.
Was it challenging to file for an LLC, and how long did it take for you to get approved?
I don't think so at all. I was talking with someone else that's in my fast track group, Bool LLC, if anyone's heard of it, and he was telling me about how he had someone file his LLC for him, and he paid way too much money for someone to do that. And there are, if you're in a program here, there are resources here to help you with that, but I guess I just didn't overthink it, and I went and applied for it on my own in 15 minutes on my phone. And I was approved by the end of the week. So it wasn't anything too crazy. I have a Illinois LLC just because that's where my home address is. But I didn't think it was hard at all or a long process. Like, you are going to pay a fee, but just make sure you're not paying an extra fee for someone to do it for you.
So that segued actually into a question I was thinking about asking earlier was, so with leaving school and being so school focused, is there any concern with maintaining that same enthusiasm for Penn State branded merchandise?
I think I have a good grasp currently on Penn State. I know I said earlier about how I would have to have students at another university make the buttons at another university because they get the culture. So yes, I won't be a student anymore. And I think that'll be okay for a little while, but eventually probably having to find someone to take over even designing Penn State buttons for me. For the time being, I think it's okay. And I also do know that a lot of my following are freshmen, sophomores, juniors. So like they're still gonna be here even though all of my senior friends are leaving. I have a sister who's a freshman and I'm in a sorority that takes new members every year. So like just having those connections and then going off of that word of mouth and continuing to get the word out there about my buttons, I think is okay through at least the next couple of years.
Online question. Have you ever had to deal with disappointed customers? If so, how do you go about that process?
I'm pretty lucky to say that I have not had many disappointed customers. The occasional issue that I've had is a button breaks every now and then, but you know, usually people aren't coming to me crying that their button that was $5 broke. They usually are pretty understanding of it and are happy to get a new one. If someone ever was upset and comes to me about it, I've replaced it, but again, this has only happened a few times. The buttons are not washer-proof, so I have had a few people send me pictures of the rims being a little rusted, and I'm like, did you put the button through the washer? And sometimes they've said yes, and I'm like, well, you probably need to come off your clothes first. But that's been dealt with as it's come. But no, I've never had too upset of customers to deal with, which is great. But if I have, it's usually just replacing the button.
How many buttons until you leave your full-time job?
Maybe let's say acquiring 2 or 3 more universities instead of how many buttons. I think that would be more accurate, but yeah, definitely going to use the next year to grow at Penn State through my website because I think that's manageable, and then also use that year to adjust in my career following college. And then after that year of adjustment, working on branching out to other universities. As one more football season. Buttons are measured in football seasons. How many people here have heard of me before this?
As somebody that hasn't heard of you, how do we buy a button right now?
Friday at the Marketplace pop-up shop is the next time. Yeah, there's currently none available on my website. I ran my website about 2 weeks ago with Stay Patty's buttons, and I was selling those strictly through a pop-up shop just because I didn't feel like doing an order form and sitting at Starbucks again, and I knew I was going to have a pop-up shop. But I put a limited amount of inventory on my website and put it out there on my Instagram, which has been the sole platform of my business for the last 1.5 to 2 years. Basically just saying, if you can't make it to the pop-up shop, like limited inventory here, this is something I'm working on. I'd love it if people could work with me to test it. And I sold what I had online, so that was great, and was able to test it and everything ran smoothly. But coming into next year, I will have all of my buttons available on my website with the same incremented pricing that I have now. So one button $6, multiple 5 each, 10 or more $3.50 each. There'll just be an added shipping and tax fee now because of running it on the website. And then I will also be selling any leftover dated pins I have from previous games as kind of like throwback buttons to previous seasons if you wanted one from that, and I have them left over.
When you come up with the pricing, do you change that based on how much time you put into the button? I know you talked about the Beaver Stadium one took you almost 3-4 hours to create. Does that then change the price of the button, or are you still keeping that standard?
No, I keep them all the same price. Yeah.
Would you ever consider getting exposure at like Arts Fest or something? Are you planning on expanding there?
I can restate it, by the way.
I'll just repeat that. Would you ever consider getting exposure at Arts Fest, or have you previously had a stand there?
No, I've actually never been to Arts Fest. Just being an out-of-state student, it's quite the hike back here for me. So I've not made it to Arts Fest, but that could be good exposure. Similarly with, I'm trying to think of like other events that I've considered but passed up on. Blue and white's extremely hit or miss for me. I did it last year because someone requested and didn't really go much anywhere, so probably not going to do blue and white this year, but yeah, could potentially. I'll be closer next year, so.
Yeah, that would be like great alumni exposure, I feel like.
Yeah, thank you.
So that actually segued into what my question was going to be. I think there's like a lot of potential beyond the university in terms of like localized events like Arts Fest. That was the one that came right to my mind right before I said it. I think if you were to expand to those, that would offer a broader audience and might get you in more target segments without moving too away from like buttons on Beaver. Like that makes sense, and I think there's a lot of opportunity there beyond just moving to different schools where it might feel a little scary. There's probably a lot that you can do within the community, getting involved with those events.
Yeah, no, it's definitely great to consider, and I appreciate you guys bringing that up.
Yeah. And like a couple organizations that come to mind, like the Pride Festival here is like really big. So we're an LGBTQ company, so like where our head goes. But Arts Fest is one that we've considered doing like partnerships with people around here to like specifically around like queer artists. So like, maybe that's something you could think of as well with buttons and expanding beyond just sports and we are Penn State and going into the other parts of the community that make State College and Penn State what it is.
Yeah, definitely. Those are definitely great ideas. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm happy to stick around and answer any other questions that people might have, but I also don't want to keep you here sitting in silence if everyone's done.